What's going on, everybody? This is Nick from House of Paint bringing you Graz'zt. Standing over 9 feet tall, the Dark Prince wielding a long, acid-soaked greatsword is now coming live to your screen. The model itself, courtesy of Cavus Designs, I've painted a couple of his models on the channel already, and now we are moving forward here with Graz'zt. So just a friendly reminder, if you're new to the channel, to smite like and slam subscribe so that you can stay up to date on all the latest content that I am putting out there in my quest to paint the manual. And without further ado, let's get started.
Getting started on the flesh here with a base coat of heavy violet mixed with black. It's about 75-25 heavy violet. Now the pure heavy violet, I'll be applying the first highlights to the flesh. I do want to keep him relatively dark, so I'm just going to be highlighting some of the more rounded areas of the muscles here. Now adding white to that heavy violet, I'll be applying some max highlights only to the uppermost areas of the muscles. Again, the idea here with Graz'zt is to keep him as dark as possible. So I said max highlights before, but I'm going to add a little bit more white to that mix, and I am going to be touching up some of the areas that I want to appear more prominent. And what I'm hoping this does is increases the contrast between the light that's hitting him and the dark of the shadows. Now he's wearing two metallic skull, looks like a belt clasp and a shoulder brooch. So I am going to be base coating those in heavy blue gray and black. Now some pure heavy blue gray, I'm going to start applying some highlights to the more raised areas of the skull surfaces. So I want to keep his leathers black. So what I'm going to do to give the impression of highlights is start off by giving a partial base coat to the flaps here with heavy gray and black. I do want it to be subtle, so that's what I'm focusing on. So now with a fairly diluted pure heavy gray, I'm going to be focusing on the curves of these straps as well as the outlines of them. Back to the skulls, I'm using Deathworld Forest as a shade here, so I've diluted it a fair amount, and I'm going to be just applying some of this shade to the portion of the skulls that are away from the light. And on the other half of the skull, I'll be doing the same thing, but with Merfolk Turquoise. Some sun yellow for the eyes. I'll be going over this with a dry brush of heavy blue gray for these kind of textured straps. Almost nothing on my brush. I'm being very, very careful here to get this chain around his neck and try to brush up these skulls to kind of give it a polished look. But yeah, almost nothing on the brush. I don't want to risk getting streaks on his flesh or anything like that. basing the sword in a heavy blue, gray, and black mix. Now with some pure heavy blue-gray, I'll be applying the first highlights to the sword, trying to stagger the contrast here. This is a pretty unique sword in that it's super long and very kind of oblong. So as you can see here, just kind of riding the curves of the blade with this first highlight, leaving that darker base in kind of the recesses to provide that contrast. Now adding some white to that heavy blue-gray, I'll be following that same route of highlights, only in a much more concentrated manner. And you can see here I used some Merfolk Turquoise shade to highlight the upper crest of the sword to further that contrast. And with a mix of Merfolk Turquoise and white, I applied some points of highlights, mostly to that most emphasized curve in kind of the middle of the sword there. And now I'm using it to really finish off outlining and edging the sword. And finally, just some Deathworld forest on the hilts. We're ready to call this one.
And there we have them, Graz'zt. Fun little project again for Cavus Designs. As always, I thank you for joining me. Information on how to follow me on all my social media platforms is immediately following the video, as is information on how to follow Dominic Marriott of Credit UK and Mike Donnarummo of MVD Studios. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you for the next one.